Live now.
So once again, I welcome you all for this second webinar on Adapt and Involve. And in this, we have chosen a topic of data storage. And we have fantastic faculty, Dr. Ram, Dr. Shitish Chaudhary, and Dr. Agnivesh. And we have three panelists, Mr. Rohit Ratan, Atul, and who's the third one? Sudhanshu. Yeah. So I welcome you all. We start with Ram with his talk on. Can you share your screen?
I think Sangeet Agnivesh is going to make some formal introduction.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, Swapnil sir, you want to add something? Then I'll take over. You are muted, sir.
Thank you very much, sir, Sangeet sir, Agnivesh. On behalf of the Bombay Orthopedic Society, I, Dr. Swapnil Kenny, welcome all of you all to the second Adapt and Evolve webinar, a non-orthopedic, non-academic webinar about things which matter to us, things which have changed in our lives, which have made us adapt to the situation. And today we are in a situation where we are evolving with the changing times. On behalf of the Bombay Orthopedic Society, I thank all the three speakers, Dr. Ram Chadda, who is a past president of the Bombay Orthopedic Society, Dr. Shitish Chaudhary, and Dr. Agnivesh Kiku, who are the two webmasters who are going to speak. And more than anything else, I would like to thank all the three panelists who are experts in their field, who are placed very highly in their corporate ladder, and yet they have found time to come here and speak to us, the Bombay Orthopedic Society, share their experiences as panelists, and kind of give us a perspective from their point of view as to what cloud storage really is and how it works. So may I welcome Mr. Rohit Ratan, Mr. Atul Langote, and Mr. Sudhanshu Gupta. Thank you very much for joining us. And may I now hand over the proceedings to Dr. Agnivesh.
Thank you very much, President sir and Secretary sir. So we have a very eminent speakers today. With your permission, I will just formally introduce them. We have Mr. Atul Langote. He is a cloud adoption architect in Amazon Web Services based out of Hyderabad, India. We have Mr. Sudhanshu Gupta. He's a digital cloud storage expert working with Accenture based out of Mumbai, India. And we have Mr. Rohit Ratan, a cloud networking expert with Amazon Web Service based in Dublin, Ireland. And speakers, we have none other than Dr. Ram Chadda, a senior spine surgeon from Lilavati Jaslok Hospital, whom we know, love, and regard. And Dr. Shitish Chaudhary, a senior spine surgeon, again from PD Hinduja National Hospital. And I'll be giving my part on the NAS drive. So I'll straight away hand over the proceedings to Ram sir for the same. Sir, you're muted, please.
Good evening, friends. It's a pleasure and privilege to be a part of the Adapt and Evolve webinar, where we're looking at something which has not just evolved and has added to our evolution, but it has been a revolution over the last many, many years. I share with me and my colleagues what I have learned over the past 3 decades of storing data, both clinical and radiological, as an orthopedic spine surgeon. I started 30 years back with an SLR camera, moved to a digital camera, came to a video camera, and I use a smartphone today. We had slides and transparencies towards the end of the last century, moved to still and video pictures, photographs of X-rays, MRI, CT scans, and have now evolved to a stage where we even record patient counseling, feedback, and video consenting of our patients. Well, this is just in brief the reason why we need to document and store. This is where I am stuck today. And probably it's because I'm languishing between being inspired on one side by the younger generation and being dejected and depressed by the COVID VUCA situation. I have my MacBook, I have my smartphone, and I have this hard disk drive. Should I look for a solid state drive or a hard disk drive, an SSD or an HDD? Well, I went in for this drive at the suggestion of my dear friend Agnivesh, and I didn't know then that we needed a Paragon NTFS reader for my Mac. I've also realized over time that I really can't store very big data. And I've always had this fear, and mind you, this is my third solid state drive that I'm using, but I've had an HDD which failed after it fell. How do I store? I'm still very, very conventional, and I have my own methodology, and I would like to share it with you. If you see, this is what my hard disk drive, when I open my folder of cases, shows me. And it's very, very basic. AAD, which is atlantoaxial dislocation, and the name of the patient. CDP, cervical disc prolapse. DR means disc replacement. And without DR written ahead of it means probably I did something else. CSM, cervical spinal myelopathy. DDD, degenerative disc disease. Well, this is how I was, and I stuck to it. Yes, if you notice, from 2011 to about 2015, I had my digital camera. And then you see the screenshots between 18, 19. That means I've moved to a smartphone. That's the only evolution. And this is how I see my data. And I need to keep picking on what I need and using it whenever I need to go back. However, there are heuristics and biases about these folders that I have created in my own way. And as the word means, I've learned it during my training. So I have learned as I have worked. I've not really trained myself. This has evolved the way I felt it would help me. When I go back and looked at the strength, weakness, opportunity, and threat of what I've been doing, I realized that my compartmentalization of folders was very random. It all depended on how I remembered my patients and how I remembered the pathologies. There was always a mismatch between chronology, because I may have taken a photograph but may have not loaded it onto my hard drive in time. And there are very few keywords that I can go back and look for, and it's all in this hard disk drive in my head, which needs to recall. So I have this hard disk of the desktop and the laptop. I have a backup of a portable hard disk. And thanks to some of my younger generation, I have subscribed to a very limited space on the iCloud. And at times I don't even know how to automatically sync it in and out. But it's there. There's some backup somewhere. And I fear that I may lose my data someday. That fear and apprehension persists. There could be theft, there could be pilferage, and there could be loss of my data. And if it is big data, well, I'm not future ready. It's getting difficult to manage even what I have. And as I said, I'm languishing between depression and inspiration. Hence, I've come here to get inspired by you guys. But one thing which I must say, the old school which we followed, we did triage primarily. We would not shoot everything. We would not shoot the entire MRI picture, but we chose. And we were very, very thrifty in usage of what we chose. Hence, when we had to recall, we had the best image ready. So this was more wisdom based. New school, everything is shot and dumped in. So it's more of knowledge based, and we have to actually go through our data again and again and take the best shot or the best image out. Today I'm here seeking wisdom from Kshitij and Agni to begin with, and of course from Ratanji, Amit, and Mr. Gupta to tell us the way forward for a person like me. How can I be safe, secure? How can I have a sequencing of my data? And how can I have a stress-free recall? I know what I want. I probably am not too happy with what I am using. So the needs are barely met. And I think something in between is what I really deserve. So I solicit your support, and I put in more questions and very few answers. I hope this webinar answers a lot of my questions and a lot of questions of all my colleagues who are attendees for this meeting. Thank you, Agni. As I've said, there are more questions and less answers, and I shall stop here. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Ram sir, for your presentation. And it is indeed a pleasure to hear it. We will have some questions based on these portable drives from our panelists before we move on to the cloud presentation by Dr. Kshitij. So straight away, I will ask first question to Dr. Rohit, to Mr. Rohit. Rohit, can you tell us that which one of these options is safer, the HDD, the hard disk drive, or the SSD, the solid state drive? What is the basic difference, which is more quicker? And if you have to choose one, which one you should go for?
Sure. So in case of a hard disk drive, they're basically it's somewhat of a mechanical disk. It's electronic, of course, but there is a mechanical component involved to it. So there is a disk basically which rotates at very high speed, and then you have a reader, right, which hovers above the disks, trying to seek the information that you're looking for and then read and write to it. So it's somewhat very similar to if you have seen a gramophone with a big disk and then a reader sitting on top of that. It's almost looks like that. And the problem with that setup is there is a very, a very small distance between the head and the disk that is trying to read, right? And any vibrations or any shaking or any damage to the disk can actually cause the data to be lost. It can be recovered, but the recovery can be expensive. You'll have to engage third parties, and they will have access to all the data that you don't necessarily want them to have. So that is the problem with the hard disk drives. You'll have to be very careful with it, right, with how you handle it. As far as solid state drive is concerned, as the name suggests, it's a solid drive. There are no mechanical moving components in it. It's basically like a printed circuit board with a bunch of chips that basically are your storage. So even if you drop it, to an extent, it's safer. It's much safer. Those vibrations that may damage a solid hard disk drive won't necessarily affect a solid state drive. So as far as resiliency is concerned, a solid state drive is much resilient. And of course, it's much faster because there is no delay of trying to seek the information or the file that you're trying to read on that hard drive, right? It is readily available.
Right. Thank you so much, Rohit, for that. And I'll ask my second question to Atul. Atul, are you with us?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. So can you give us a brief idea about what is this NTFS and what is this FAT32 system, and why we can't read NTFS on our Macs if the hard drive is partitioned or formatted by an NTFS way?
Sure. So I'll start with FAT, which is file allocation table. It was one of the first file system which was created by Microsoft somewhere in 1970s, maybe late 70s, 76, 77 timeframe. And it's one of the most straightforward, one of the most basic file systems that we have. It is supported primarily by Windows NT. Before, it was primarily used on Windows NT than before. And eventually after that, due to the limitations of this file system, Microsoft came with a newer file system, which was New Technology File System. somewhere around 1993-94 timeframe. Now, NTFS is very much Microsoft proprietary technology. Most of the Microsoft operating systems would support it every single time. But if you look at FAT, which is file allocation table, that is supported or utilized most often for removable storage devices such as digital cameras, smart TVs, and other portable devices. Whereas NTFS is like I said, primarily utilized only in Windows. Now, why we cannot use NTFS with Mac is primarily because Mac by itself is a very different operating system. It was not really designed for NTFS, and NTFS technology, or the way in which was developed, was not really available publicly until late 2010, 2015. So Mac was never really designed for NTFS compatibility. But then there were a lot of third-party softwares which really came in, which started supporting Mac to be compatible with NTFS from reading perspective and writing perspective. I think the latest Mac version which came out does support NTFS from a read perspective without any third-party software, but for writing perspective, it still needs a third-party software, which could be licensed or a free software, depending on what you really want to achieve.
Right. Thank you, Atul. Thank you for your insight. I'll ask one question to Sudhanshu before we move on to the next talk. Sudhanshu, are you with us?
Yes, I'm with you. Can you hear?
Sudhanshu, can you tell us that there is a file limit, that there is a particular size file you cannot store beyond 4 GB file in a FAT32 system? Why is it there? Because sometimes our high resolution videos and now 4K, 8K videos, they are going to be much, much bigger than that. So does it mean that we should move away from a FAT32 system?
Sorry, can you hear me? I'm having trouble even turning my video on as well as unmuting myself. Can you hear me?
No, I can hear. We can hear you, Sudhanshu.
I think just unmute him. He's muted.
Yeah. I'm actually trying to unmute myself, but I'm going on.
You are unmuted right now. That's fine. So Rohit, can you answer that question? Should we move away from FAT32?
See, there is one more option, and as rightly pointed by Atul, so you can also look at something which is known as extendable FAT, which is can support larger file sizes and can support a larger disk size in total, and is actually supported with the use of course some drivers on Mac OS as well as older version of Unix. So, but essentially there were two different file systems created for two different purposes by two different companies for whatever reasons, maybe market share and stuff like that. They don't want to adopt each other's technology, so that's more of a marketing and a company strategy point. But for users like us, we can definitely look at extensible FAT, which can be used on Mac as well as Windows, and supports larger disks and larger file sizes as well.
So when you buy a new hard drive, it's the way you format it in the beginning. You can't change the formatting afterwards, right?
You can change the formatting, but you will have to format that. You'll have you'll lose
the data,
yes.
Reformat it, and then put
exactly.
the data back in again.
Yes.
Right. So we have heard the age-old, tried and tested method from Ram sir, how he does it. It's the best thing because it's handy. It's with you. You don't need an internet connection. You just plug into your Mac or your laptop and you have it ready. The data transfer speed is much, much faster because it's a wired connection. But there are advantages which are coming to the cloud sort of storage, and you can access it anywhere. And let's hear that from Dr. Kshitij, that why he chooses cloud over a hard disk drive.
Thank you, Agnivesh. So let me start. So I'm going to talk about cloud storage and how I use it. And disclaimer is I'm an Apple fanboy. Everything that I have is Apple, and everything is in this Apple ecosystem. And one of the advantage of being in this ecosystem, as we were discussing before, about FAT32 and NTFS and all, you don't have to bother much if everything in your house is on Mac operating system. and the only issue arises when you are dealing with somebody else's computer, and for that a pen drive is fine. So that's one advantage of being in an ecosystem. And over the last 10-15 years, gradually I have moved away from Windows, and I never had Android. But so that's the advantage of being in an ecosystem. And over time I have got my entire family also on the same ecosystem. And that's why the cloud storage I'm going to show to you is shared between uh, 4 of my family members, and iCloud allows a maximum of 6 family members storage. So to begin with a basic, what is cloud service? Cloud service is any service made available to the user on demand via the internet from a cloud computing provider's server. So it's a little complicated definition. What it simply means is that all of your devices are connected to a remote computer that is managed by the company that is providing you with that cloud space. So via the internet, you are able to connect to that remote computer. And in technical jargon, it is called as a server. But imagine that it's a computer, just a really big computer. And iCloud is the Apple's cloud-based ecosystem of applications and tools that you can use almost on any device, but it works more like a service than a backup or an iCloud drive. The storage function of iCloud is just one component of the iCloud, but the iCloud services allow you to use your email, store your contacts, your calendar, reminders, notes, even your, let's say, presentations on Keynote, Excel sheets on numbers, and your documents on pages, which is equivalent to Word, Excel, and PowerPoint of Office, is available through iCloud. And those people who have used these, many of them have gotten used to it. Like I have gotten used to this so much that I don't use Microsoft products at all. And these come free with the Mac operating system, and it's integrated with the iCloud service. So imagine the iCloud not as like just like a remote hard drive, but imagine iCloud as a service that is providing with you with more than just space to store your data. So the way you activate iCloud is that if you go in your system preferences on your Mac computer, there is this Apple ID icon here right at the front. When you click on it, such a window opens, and you can see here the apps on this Mac that are using iCloud. So here I have clicked on the iCloud, and this is what shows. The iCloud Drive is the storage function of iCloud. Whereas all these others are the apps that are using iCloud, like the photos that I take go on iCloud, the email that I use, the contacts, the calendars, reminders, notes, my Safari information of my net browser, etc. There are so many other services also provided by iCloud. So when you check these on, you would get these iCloud Drive activated on your Mac computer. So when you look at the cloud, this is like a mnemonic that one of these YouTube channel Professor Adam Morgan has used, and I thought it is an easy way of explaining to people who have not used iCloud what cloud storage means. So C is for computer, L is for login, O is for offsite, U is for uploading, and D is for downloading. So let's look at the computer. The computer essentially is any device that can connect to an internet. It can be a laptop, it can be a tablet like an iPad, it can be your phone. But an iCloud service provided by Apple works seamlessly with Apple products. It is extremely easy to use if you are in this ecosystem where all the products that you and your family use are operating on Apple's operating system, whether mobile or whether on Mac operating system. If you have Windows operating system or your phone uses Android, then you can still access the iCloud files and your stored files using a browser, but it is extremely cumbersome to do that. It's not extremely easy. I find it very difficult to access these files from the outside a Mac operating system. Many of us have a mixed ecosystem, like your phone is an Android phone, but your laptop is Mac. In those situations, I think the Google Drive is the best one, because Google Drive also provides you a lot of other services like how Apple provides, and Google Drive will work very well with the Apple ecosystem as well as it will work well with the Android. So those people who are on mixed ecosystems, for them, I think I would recommend Google Drive instead of being on iCloud. L is for login, and the login essentially is your Apple ID. So all of you who own Apple devices have Apple ID, and automatically the moment you have an Apple ID, you have an iCloud account. Both of these mean the same thing. So Apple gives you 5 GB of free iCloud account along with the moment you sign up for an Apple ID. And obviously for an Apple ID, you require a robust password. And when I mean robust password, means it should have a combination of uppercase letters, lowercase letters, numbers, as well as special characters that you remember in your mind, because this is something that is extremely important. You cannot use these passwords for other logins. This should be a unique password, because this is a total and access to your digital life and needs to be extremely strong. So O is for offsite, which means that the computer in which your data is going to be stored is offsite. These are the servers, and most of Apple's servers, I think, are owned by Amazon and Microsoft. They are somewhere in maybe California. Our experts can tell us where they are, but they are not here. They are so the advantage of having an offsite storage is that it saves storage space on your computer. Your computer may have 256 GB or 512 GB or 1 terabyte, but you can push data to the cloud space even if your hard disk space is limited. It provides for disaster recovery. You can lose your laptop, you can lose your hard drive, your house can burn down, or your house can get flooded and your computer or your NAS drive can get damaged because of an electrical some problem. So whatever you store in your home can get damaged, or a thief can rob you and you can lose everything. And the another advantage is that it can increase collaboration. At a click of a button, you can share an entire folder with your colleague who can download it if you give them permission from that cloud storage. But the drawbacks are there are potential security problems. If you remember a few years ago, the iCloud, there was a leak. Somebody had hacked into the celebrity accounts of some people, iCloud accounts. So this potentially that can be a problem. That's why you need to be extremely secure with the passwords and change it frequently as you do for your banks. It requires a fast internet, and if you are in a place where you are on don't have a broadband network, then downloading the files off the cloud can be very slow and can slow down your workflow. And finally, is these companies can change their terms of agreement. I think a few years back, Microsoft was giving 15 GB of free space, and then after some time they changed that to 5 GB. So you have to be aware that sometimes if you are using free accounts or if you are using paid accounts, their prices can change, and their terms of agreements can change. What a space provided by iCloud is free is 5 GB. For OneDrive, which is by Microsoft, is also 5 GB. Dropbox is 2 GB free space, and Google Drive, as you all know, is 15 GB free space, and each one of us has a Gmail account, so you get 15 GB with it as free space, but that your Gmail account is also using a part of that 15 GB. These are the pricings of these Google One, iCloud, OneDrive, and Dropbox. Just as a comparison that I have given you, Dropbox maximum is 2 terabyte. One user, it is about $10, which is about 750 rupees. OneDrive is maximum 1 terabyte, but you can share it with 6 users, and you get Office apps included in it. So if you are a Microsoft Office or a PowerPoint fan where you want to use those apps, then you can get licensed versions of these apps along with 1 terabyte of OneDrive space. iCloud is what I use because I'm in the Apple ecosystem and everything of mine works that way. That's why I pay for the 2 terabyte, which I share with 6 users of my family, which is about $10 a month. And then for the people who are using mixed ecosystems, for them, again, the price difference is not much for Google Drive and iCloud. U is for uploading. So how do you transfer your data from your computer to iCloud? It's extremely easy. Once you have checked these boxes, and once you have checked these iCloud, go here in options. And when you go in options, you have an option of putting your entire desktop and document folder on iCloud. So I have checked that on. When you do that, you will see that your desktop and document, which initially was somewhere here, will move under this iCloud section, and automatically that gets pushed to iCloud. And if you are having a free iCloud account, obviously you will run out of space very quickly, so you need to buy an upgrade. So first upgrade is 50 GB, then next upgrade is 200 GB, and the final upgrade is 2 terabyte. So that way you can push all your desktop and documents. In my documents folder, I have created these life buckets, which means that my life is one folder, my work is one folder. In that there are subfolders. So anything that is important to me and my work goes in these folders. I don't store anything out of these folders because I can lose my laptop, or my laptop can crash and I can lose work. This way, it's less likely for me to lose my work because that gets pushed to the iCloud. So downloading is basically receiving that data that is there on the iCloud on your computer. That is just as easy as browsing your files. And if you have fast enough internet, it's almost real time. If you are dealing with the usual files that we use for Office, if you are using it for heavy video editing and 4K videos, then obviously it's going to take time. For those, I would suggest that you have an SSD drive. If video editing is a big part of your workflow. So here you can see some of the folders have this cloud downwards arrow, which means that some of the files in this folder are on cloud and they are not on my computer, whereas some files in my work folder are still getting uploaded gradually over the iCloud as my internet is there at the background. Now, if you run out of space on your computer, what you want to do is optimize max storage. You want to check this box. So what it does is that if you have unchecked it, then the full contents of your iCloud drive are stored on your Mac. But if you don't have enough space and you have checked this box off, then older documents will automatically go in iCloud and they will be removed from your computer. So space gets cleared on your computer automatically. So this is something that is marked for me on my computer. You can access your iCloud from any browser on any computer, even a Windows computer. So all you have to do is go to iCloud.com, sign in using your Apple ID. My two-factor authentication is activated, so it is going to ask me the code which will come on my phone. I put that in, then it will say trust this browser. If you are doing it on your own computer, then you can obviously trust it. But if you are using someone else's computer, say you do not trust it, so it will not automatically log in the next time. And then this is what opens. You can click on iCloud Drive here, and then the same file, the folders that are on your iCloud Drive will open. If you click on a documents folder, automatically those my life and my work folders will open. So that's how accessing this on a browser works. And the other cloud services I use, three, I won't be able to discuss them right now, would be Papers, Evernote, and Notion. Papers is where all my papers go, anything, all scientific literature that I read or collect goes in Papers, which is similar to Mendeley, but I have been using Papers for nearly since my residency days, maybe 15 years. And I have used Papers 1, Papers 2, Papers 3, and now it's completely cloud-based. So I pay for this service. It's extremely important for my workflow, and that's why I cannot live without it. So I'm kind of stuck with it, even though I'm paying for it. But for people who are beginners, I would suggest Mendeley, which gives you 2 GB of free space. You can put all your scientific papers and all on Mendeley. Second one is Evernote, where I put all my other information in Evernote. All the receipts and other stuff go on Evernote. And Notion is where I do the note taking. So these are the 3 other iCloud services I use, and I use the 3-2-1 backup strategy. So iCloud is not the only thing where my backup is there. I have 3 copies of my important data. 2 copies are on a NAS storage drive, which is synced with my computer. So I have a copy of all the stuff that I have on my iCloud on my NAS in a RAID 1 array, which Agnivesh is going to tell us. And then 1 copy I have as an offsite storage. So this is my backup strategy. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Kshitij. So I will continue with the NAS drive, and then we will open the house for discussion. So what I use is again what Dr. Kshitij uses, but primarily I use a NAS drive because it is much easier to sort of download and work in my home ecosystem. And for my outside work, it is almost the same as an iCloud drive. So as Robert Downey Jr., the Iron Man, said that smart people have backups, I would say the smart people have backup to backups. So we are the smarter ones. So we should have the backups to backup. So we have discussed the hard disk drive and the cloud drive. Dr. Kshitij has told us each one has its pros and cons. But when you want to take combined advantage of both, then you switch over to what you call as a NAS drive, which works as a hard disk drive in your home environment and would also work as a cloud storage when you're out of it. So to set up a NAS drive, you basically need 4 components. You need a modem with good internet connection. It should be preferably 100 Mbps or something like that, but even 10 Mbps works fine. You need to have a good router, preferably a dual band router. You need to have your NAS drive, and you need to have your smart UPS. So you need to essentially recreate. And I believe the first 2 everyone has, because all of us do have internet connections. It is the second one which you probably need to set up. So this is my setup. It's a NAS drive from QNAP, which is linked to the smart UPS. This QNAP is basically a Linux based, which prevents any frills and all which come usually with the other systems. And this is also connected to my TV. So if I want to watch a movie which is in my NAS drive, I can do that. If I want to scroll through the pictures in my NAS drive, I can do that. If I want to browse internet sitting on that, so I have a remote control which works like a sort of a mouse. So I can do that on this one as well. So this is how it works. So a 2-bay drive is what you need to have at home. You can use it in RAID 0, what Dr. Kshitij was talking about, or RAID 1 settings. The RAID is basically a redundant array of independent disks. So when 2 disks are running together, do you want to run them in a way that if one fills up, the other one starts catching up or taking the storage space, or you want to use other as a mirror, which is the RAID 1. So whatever you have in disk 1, it is automatically copied to disk 2. And if you have such a system that one disk goes sort of gets damaged or it gets corrupted, probably the other one, all you need to do is just replace that disk and your data doesn't go anywhere. You need to have a router And this is a router which I use. It's a dual band router, and this is of 802.11 AC configuration, or which we usually or commonly call as Wi-Fi 5. And I create a guest network for unknown devices. I don't let them log in to the main sort of the router login ID, because that creates a lot of problem for your data and safety. Why do you need a smart UPS? It is because the data is very delicate. You can't have a power outrage shutting and damaging your NAS drive. So this smart UPS, what it does is, as per my command or my instruction, once the power has failed, it will either do two things. One, it will put the NAS drive to sleep. And when it is critically running out of power, it can sort of automatically shut down the NAS drive to prevent your damage. So this is why you need a smart UPS. So when I use it on my laptop, there is an app called as Queue Finder. So Queue Finder lets me scroll all the NAS drives on my sort of system. And this is how it identifies the NAS drive, the IP address. I give this IP address. So usually this IP address, what you have, 192.168, it's your router's IP address. And then the next two digits sort of represent what is your domain of the router. So my system, it opens up and it gives like this. So I have a control panel. So control panel, I can create users. I can set off their restrictions, whether they can only read data, they can write data. Can they modify their settings? I can give all the controls what I want from the control panel. And even I can give access to my child and still be able to monitor the data, what he is doing. HDMI display applications connect to TV and I can do whatever I want. It becomes like a computer. File station is which I use to browse the files. My QNAP cloud is the service which helps me access that disk over the cloud sitting anywhere in the world. I can have an internet connection and access to all the data which is stored in my NAS drive. And two other important things which are there are app center. So you can have multiple apps, you can have antivirus, you can have softwares which you can install into it, which can help you to download. And this cloud drive sync, this is the sort of best sort of app which it has got. So what you can do is you can sort of do a sync with any cloud service, primarily the Google Drive, the OneDrive, the Dropbox. If you have a bigger file, you don't want to turn on your computer and wait for it to download for 5 hours, 6 hours. You just sync it onto your drive and it keeps on happening. And automatically you go in the morning, you leave a 4 GB, 10 GB file to download. And by the time you're back home, it would be done. So this is the system. And then these are the folders which I've made. I can give sort of permission for each folders, for each user to be able to view the folder. Like the setup I have at home, in my multimedia, all my family pictures are there. So all the account holders, they can access that multimedia photos. Even if I'm not home, they can see those pictures, they can scroll through those pictures, they can show to anyone, they can have it for their use, they access it from their mobile sitting anywhere, they can, whatever photos they click, they just throw it into this drive sitting anywhere from the world. But this is my main folder, which is the backup, which nobody apart from me has access to. So nobody can have a sort of fiddle around with the data. So how do I store the data? My phone or laptop is connected to this NAS cloud. There is a shared folder in which I put up new images and all, which is assessed by the secretary. And she sort of organizes the folders as per what is the need and as per patient base. And then it is synced onto my cloud drive, on my NAS drive, which again, I have a backup of. And how do I back it up? I back it up to the cloud drive. So you can use these cloud drives to sort of back up your data. And all you need to do is just create your sync sort of a work. And you can have the periodicity, like you want to sync it every week, you want to sync it every day, you want to sync it every month, and it will automatically run that sync and sort of do your work for you. So your data is getting saved. And if you want, there is an option that you can connect a hard drive to it, as sort of a solid state drive or a hard drive to it. And you can make a backup of all of your data into the hard drive as well. So if you want to carry something with you and you can always carry it with you, and you can expand the storage. So these drives, the hard drives which are there in these NAS drives, this mine is a 2-bay. You can have a 8-bay NAS drive also. You can have a 16-bay NAS drive also. So I use 3 terabyte in a RAID 1 manner, which leaves me 3 terabytes backed up to another 3 terabyte. If I don't use it, I can have 6 terabytes. So I'm anyways more than the cloud can offer me. And there is this is the best system I have found. The disadvantages are that it requires setup. It's not suitable for less people for less storage needs. Like if your whole requirement is for say 1 TB or something like that, then this is not going to work for you. You will be spending more money than you will be making use of. But they are an excellent way of storing the things over cloud. It gives you complete control, and you decide. Like if Dr. Kshitij wants to use iCloud, he is stuck with that 2 TB limit. If all of their data goes to 2 TB, there's nothing else they can do. They'll have to separate their iCloud accounts and pay more. But what I can do is I can simply pull out the drive and load it with a higher a 4 TB version, and my data storage will automatically be double. Of course, this comes with a price. And as Alan Kay has said, the best way to predict the future is to invent it. And with our video consultations and video consenting forms, the 4K, 8K videos, this 2 terabyte memory is going to be falling short very, very soon. Thank you very much. And with that, I open the house for the discussion.
Agnivesh, can I start? This is Neeraj Bijla.
So
yeah.
So
we'll
just ask. Neeraj is also a very active member of BOS. He takes part in a lot of tech, and I have learned a lot from him. And he's my neighbor. So go ahead, Neeraj. What is your question?
Yeah. So my main question was that in the iCloud you showed there was no selective sync, as you answered me on the chat box. But one of the experts on cloud here said that there is a possibility. So
I would also like to know how to do it, because I haven't figured it out.
I stand corrected. Dr. Kshitij is right. I confuse iCloud with Google Cloud and OneDrive. So yeah, Dr. Kshitij is right.
That's a disadvantage, I think, for iCloud.
That's correct.
Just for everyone, what selective sync means is that you cannot decide which folder among your data stays on your computer. That is decided by iCloud. Means, let's say if you have a patient folder from 3 years ago that you have not accessed for the last year, it is going to get pushed on the iCloud. It will not be there on your computer. So for you to access it, you will have to download it from the iCloud and then see it. So if you are not in a very fast internet environment, it's going to be a lag between the time you click on the file and then it shows up. It takes time. You would want, if the other iCloud, the other cloud services have that option of selecting folders that always remain on your computer and other folders get pushed away onto the cloud. But iCloud doesn't allow that. Maybe they will in the future, but it doesn't.
Yeah, this is Sudhanshu. Hello, everybody. This I was just just wanted to just give you a small piece of information here. The new Mac OS Catalina 10.15 will indeed have these selective sync functionalities on iCloud. So I think we are on 10.14. It's a matter of probably.
I am on the ahead one. I am on Big Sur, but it's still not allowed. So I am ahead of Catalina. I am on the latest one, and I haven't figured out how to do it. Maybe there is a way, but I have tried it, but I haven't figured out how to do that.
Sure, let me work it out.
And in the Apple forums also, it's the same situation. Means nobody has given an answer on the Apple forums.
Right.
Yeah.
And what about if you want to sync multiple computers, where you are talking about taking backup on iCloud or multiple? Can we do that, or will the data all get mixed up? For example, I have 2 Macs. So how do I do that? If they take a backup of desktop and documents, will they get mixed up or they will remain same?
They will get mixed up if you are using the same account. So what the iCloud will be able to do is it will replicate your computer on another computer if you use the same iCloud account. So if you have a laptop and say if you have an iMac, and if you use the same iCloud drive, your both computers will have the same content, exactly the same, duplicate it will be. So if you create a file on iMac, it will appear on your MacBook, it will appear on your iPhone. If you create a file on your iPhone, it will appear on your MacBook, it will appear on your iMac. So it is completely like a seamless copy of your work environment.
Okay.
Thank you.
Kshitij
sir, I have a small question for you. That if you're using iCloud desktop on your Mac, and if you just deselect the iCloud desktop option, so
it doesn't allow it doesn't allow you to separately deselect desktop. It will deselect both desktop and documents.
Yes. So in that case, your whole data will be gone from your laptop.
No, it will not. It won't be. So you will have to store. If you will have to create an additional folder, which goes on iCloud Drive. If you want to, you will have to create a folder outside your documents folder.
True. So
and then push that on iCloud.
You'll need to download all of that stuff again onto your laptop from the cloud. So it will go away.
Yeah. You will have to download everything if you have to move it somewhere else.
True. So let's get in our experts over here, and let me ask this question to Rohit.
A few questions.
Yes, please go ahead, sir. Please go ahead.
Regarding this purchase storage, very often we get messages that it gets filled up. So what do we have to do? We have to empty it or go on buying more space?
Which one, sir?
iCloud.
Agnivesh, I can answer that. It is iCloud which gives you this problem all the time, especially if you have only 5 GB. It will keep on giving you warning. So that is Apple's way of telling you that you have to buy it. You don't need to empty it, because that doesn't mean that your phone is full.
That is not the issue. I have said purchase space. It is beyond 5.
So if you have purchased 50 GB, and if your 50 GB is full.
Yeah. So what do? You go on purchasing more or you empty?
I think, sir, the only way to empty is that you have to remove it from the iPhone and keep it on the computer.
No,
is that what you're asking about the iPhone? You're asking.
No, I'll answer that question.
Yeah, go ahead.
I'll answer.
What you have purchased?
Okay. Yeah.
Not the free.
So I'll answer that question, sir. So there are a couple of things that you can do to free up space. One is that if your backups are on, then you can look at the backup part of the iCloud Drive, and the older backups you can delete, and the most recent backup you can keep. So that's one. Second thing is that WhatsApp has a lot of unnecessary information. If you see, WhatsApp will use your iCloud space like anything, because these all random videos get stored on the iCloud if you have activated a backup for WhatsApp. So that's the first place where you go and delete your WhatsApp random things. And through the WhatsApp app only you can delete. Automatically your iCloud space will empty out. Then you look at what all things that, you can use a duplicate finder also to see if you have duplicates of your files there. Those you can reduce. Now, in spite of doing all those things, wherever unnecessary data, if you cannot remove, then you will have to purchase the next segment. You will have to go to 200 GB.
Okay. Now, say for example, you have pictures of, say, yesterday's surgery, which are about, say, 1 GB. You have taken videos and everything. You have transferred today on your laptop or on a PC. So once you delete from your phone, do they go to the iCloud and occupy the space, or once deleted from the phone, which is that clears up the space, or it is no longer available on the phone or iCloud?
So Mr. Rohit, can you answer that question? Like how the phone photos work when you delete them?
So just before he answers, now I'll just give a brief overview. So this is for Rohit, Atul, and Sudhanshu. So what we do as orthopedic surgeons is that we record a lot of high definition pictures, intraoperative, videos of patients as well as surgeries, and a lot of X-rays pre-op, post-op, intra-op. So it is a lot of data which we essentially most of us take from our phone, and the issue then becomes of storage. So essentially our problem now lies with storing of clinical data over the 20 to 30 years. So with this in mind, like every surgery will have probably 1.5 to 2 GB of data. And this is what we need to store. So with this information, I would want you to speak.
Sure. So I fortunately or unfortunately don't have experience with iCloud specifically with Apple products. But yes, with Google Drive, I've used it extensively to store my family photographs and other data. And the thing that I've observed is whenever my phone is full, I delete the data from my phone, it still stays in my Google Drive. It doesn't go anywhere, right? And if I purchase a new phone, I sign up using my same Gmail ID, and then I get, if I want to download anything, I can download it easily. So I'm not sure what happens with Apple, whether if you delete the file from your local computer, does it also get deleted on the cloud? I'm not sure about that. But as far as Google Drive is concerned, or even OneDrive is concerned, your data stays in the cloud as long as you don't go and manually delete it.
Correct. And as far as iCloud, I'm also a very heavy user of, this is Sudhanshu again. I'm sorry if I turn on my camera, my internet, my voice connectivity will go down. So apologies for that. So I use quite heavily Google Photographs and Google Photos and Google Cloud. And like Rohit mentioned, it's exactly the same behavior. But in case of iCloud, if you have your iCloud option for photos synced, then as soon as you delete it from your device, it'll automatically delete it from the cloud. That's my experience on my iPhone. But it also gives you an option of storing those images in, and you can recover those images up to a period of 30 days, either from your phone or from your iCloud.
Okay. Now, the second issue is about the storage. Like you spoke about the hard disk, external hard disk. That is one way. Or now we have pen drive, which have a larger storage capacity. So what is the difference between storing on a pen drive, say, which is 256 GB, or on a external hard disk? What is the difference between the two?
So the primary difference is you'll always find pen drive. Now that earlier we used to have like pen drives with a few megabytes of capacity. Now they've grown to gigabytes of capacity, but still not to the extent of a external hard drive. For example, you can get a hard drive with terabytes of capacity, right? So the only thing is portability and capacity. That's the only difference between them. As far as resiliency is concerned, the longevity of a device is concerned, they are all electronic devices. They can fail at any time, right? But the only, you can easily lose a pen drive, right? A hard drive is slightly bigger. You won't potentially lose it very easily. And you also get a bigger capacity, right? So you may have 3-4 different pen drives, or you may have a hard drive. But pen drives are very easily for quickly sharing data across, where you don't want to give entire data. You just want to give a couple of files. That is the best thing to do. So that's about, as far as pen drives and hard drives are concerned. They're almost the same piece of technology, just the form factor is different.
And you have anything to say?
I have one question, because the question that you had asked before, that is still pending, because the magnitude of the data for like the patient information is huge in terms of that media, and I personally find it very difficult to store that on cloud services, mainly for two reasons. Because cloud services are limited, so it will be like maximum 2 terabyte, and you're going to run out of space, and many of these surgical videos will be very heavy. And if you push like a surgical video on the cloud, then accessing it becomes difficult because you'll have to download that 1 GB file every time you want to see that video or edit that video. So for that purpose, I think what I am using right now is NAS, which is what Agnivesh showed, that I have a NAS drive in which all my heavy media stuff goes. So it has some bit of protection because it has redundancy, which means that I'm using 2 hard drives that are exact copies of each other. So one hard drive is 4 GB. The other hard drive is also 4 GB. I don't have total 8 GB of space. I have only 4 GB of space. Whatever I store on that 4 GB gets automatically mirrored into that other 4 GB. Now, why you want to do that is because there is safety in redundancy. It is unlikely that both hard drives will fail at the same time. So if one hard drive fails, you still have one copy of your data preserved, and then you can replace that kharab hard drive with a new hard drive, and then you are back in business. If you keep it only in if you keep all your patient data of 20, 30 years, like how Swapnil is saying, in one location, you are going to lose it. Sometime or the other, you are going to lose it. You need to make copies of it. And the best copies of it will be made in a RAID array if you are dealing, like how Agnish said, that if you have too much data, if you have data that runs in GBs, then have a NAS drive. If your data is documents and stuff like that, which is easily manageable, then you go with cloud services. That's what I am using. I'm using a mixture of the two.
Kshitij, can I ask a question?
Yes, sir.
So NAS drive is like a local cloud. So can you update files on this from anywhere, from any location, or it has to be done from the local, desktop to which it is connected?
It can be done through any location via internet. Anybody panelists want to take that question? I think you can do it. I normally do it only from home, but I don't do it from outside home. But I think you
wanna take that question?
You can do it from any location as long as you have enabled the cloud services on the NAS drive. NAS drive inbuilt comes with some cloud services, and you can expose that. You can create users on it if you want to share some data with somebody else. It pretty much operates like Google Drive or iCloud. It has an interface which is exposed on public domain, and as long as you have a login password, you can obviously upload or download data. Obviously, the experience will be determined by the bandwidth or the internet speed that you have. But from ability to do that, yes, you can do that.
And the next question, related to that would be, how safe is it? Suppose I have fellows whom I have given access to this drive to upload my surgical photos and videos, and if there is a virus on one of their devices, how easy is it to affect?
It is as safe as how you can give keys to your house to somebody else and what they do with it. And if you want access to them, and if they have right set of privileges, and depending on what privileges you have granted to them, if they have enough privileges to mess up with the other folders or spread the virus, then it can corrupt your entire NAS device.
So Taral sir, if I just simplify that. So basically, you have to restrict the permissions which you give to the fellows. So fellows can only sort of access a limited folder on that NAS drive, and they can just arrange the photos into folders and all. You cannot give them access to create new users. You cannot give them access to edit your personal files or your folders. So you need to restrict the sharing permissions to them. And the other question, the first one which you asked, is that you can put the data from anywhere in the world. Only thing is that you need to have a proper app which a respective company, means whichever company's NAS drive you use, they will give you to sort of find your NAS drive on the internet and upload that data into the device. So answer is yes, you can do that, but you will need an internet connection working at both ends, your mobile phone as well as your home NAS drive, to put that data into the drive.
Agnivesh, I have a question for you, Neeraj here. So regarding the NAS drive, is it possible, say for example, to take a backup of a remote device, means like a laptop which is not there in your home and it is there in somebody else's home, like for my mom and dad's home or my in-laws home, and I want them to take a backup on my NAS drive. Is it possible, or it has to be local in the same Wi-Fi?
No. You can do that. That is absolutely possible. The speed again will be determined between your internet connection from your place as well as at your end. You will have to create a specific folder for them and give them access to your NAS drive as you would share a iCloud with your family or something. It is same as sharing a cloud space with anyone. You'll have to give them access and give them a sort of folder. And all of these NAS drives, they all sort of are compatible with Time Machines and all these backups and all. Which you can.
So the Time Machine can be done remotely as well. It need not be in the same
Yes,
Wi-Fi, is what you're saying.
it can be. Same Wi-Fi is for your home so that your speed is quicker and it acts more faster like heavy files and all. But you can access it anywhere from the world.
Okay.
Even if you want to host your website, you can host it on your NAS drive. You don't need to buy a cloud space from a third party to host your website. You can use it in your NAS drive.
Okay. So this is to Atul. This next question is that how these cloud storage services like Dropbox, OneDrive or Google Drive will, if we give access to the others, how will they prevent viruses from coming in compared to our local NAS drive? Because I feel that local NAS drive, even if you are given access to one folder, and if that computer has a virus, it can always travel to that folder. But where a cloud storage service is concerned, I think they have some different level of security where the viruses don't enter. Am I right or am I wrong? Atul, can you take that?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah. So see, as long as you have given them access to a folder and you have given them the upload privileges, they can upload anything they have. Now, how does commercial cloud services enable or secure your data or secure the softwares they have? Like you said, they have a lot of security measures they already put in. They have a lot of scans that continuously run on the data which gets uploaded. Having said that, are they 100% secure? Are they 100% proof from any virus? No. We have seen multiple instances in past where some of these bigger cloud providers have been impacted by ransomware or malwares. So none of this is 100% secure, but you're right. The level of security, level of protection that they have probably is going to be like 10 times better than what you and I may have at our home. And Rohit, I mean, if you want to add from networking perspective, if you have any perspective, you can please add.
Yes, absolutely, Atul, you're right. It's going to be very secure as compared to what we would host in our homes. Plus, in case there is an incident, they can respond much better than we can do. An average person can do.
I have one point to make is that these servers that you have for the NAS storage, they run on a different operating system. So the viruses, correct? They are running on a different operating system. They are not running on Windows. So so the viruses from Windows not necessarily will completely transfer on other operating systems, because you need a virus that is made for that operating system to screw it up. And these are more obscure than Windows. So I mean, relatively, the fear that we have for Windows operating system should not be translated to NAS. I think I have no experience.
No, that is actually a very good point.
I think
one more addition to this, Agnivesh, if you are giving privileges to your secretary to upload the file, she naturally will have privileges to delete something also in that folder.
Yeah, but that's not my primary folder.
Yeah, but that if she deletes the recent files also, then does it go to some recycle bin where it can be retrieved for 1 month or something like that? Is there a provision?
There is a recycle bin. There is a recycle bin. So you can even restrict the permissions for deleting anything.
Right. So now I have some questions, and these are from the perspective of a general orthopedic surgeon. Somebody who's running a clinic, somebody who's running a nursing home, somebody who needs to store data. One is the patient data as regards the IP papers, the OP papers, which is the OPD and the IPD papers, X-rays, and even MRI for that matter. So say somebody having a clinic, somebody having a small nursing home of about 10 beds. What is the data storage which you recommend? This is for the panelists as well as the experts. and cost. There has to be some control on the cost as well. So considering those things in mind, whether a person needs to be employed to run all this or the person can do it himself, what is going to be the cost of it, and what service would you recommend? Would it be cloud-based? Would it be a physical hard drive? Would it be what Agnivesh spoke? What would it be?
Okay, so well, you can do it yourself as well. Now, if you're running a private clinic and you have, let's say, for example, 10 beds, you'll have 10 times, you might have 10 times the data, because you own a clinic, right? There are so many patients coming in and going out. So you would definitely, in case of cloud services, you'll get a very limited space, as everybody has spoken about it. So that might not suffice your needs. So you definitely will have to look into NAS. But with NAS, you will have slightly more control on how do you want to design your NAS. For example, do you really want RAID, right? As other people have spoken, you have basically 2 hard drives that mirror each other, right? That replicate the data. You can not choose to do that, right? For example, because that can be expensive. You have 2 hard drives, but then you're getting the space of 1, right? Or if you need more redundancy, right? If you're not satisfied with that, you can have RAID 0 plus RAID 1, whereas there are 2 drives which mirror each other, yet they stripe data across 2 more drives. So you'll have striping of data as well as mirroring of data. So NAS can be configured in various ways, and the costs will be associated with that. But it's still not a very expensive option to go with.
And Dr. Swapnil, considering you may have a clinic and you may have data worth years, let's say 10, 15, 20 years, and it really also depends on how much data are you generating. I mean, if a single patient or a single operation generates, let's say, more than a GB of data, at that run rate, you might end up generating more than 100 GB of data in a month. You might run out of a terabyte of data in like 3 or 10 months max, right? And then what do you do after that? So there are beyond, I mean, when you say it's a 10-bed hospital, it's a small startup kind of company in itself, right? Depending on the data that you generate. You also might want to consider beyond NAS storage as options, which are offered by companies like Microsoft and Google for commercial, not as an individual retail customer, but for a commercial companies or small scale industries, a startup of 10 people or startup of 15 people, where they provide much more better services, much more resiliency, much more redundancy, much more better SLAs in terms of storage offerings which they have. I think those are the things that you should start considering. I think Dr. Chadha was saying about 30 years of data. I mean, if there's a 30 years of data, it's very rare that he's going to look at a data or case which was 30 years old. Depending on how frequently you access that data, the pricing tiers in those storage vary. I mean, if you have something which is getting access very frequently on a month-on-month basis, you might end up paying about 20 cents a GB per month, which is very less compared to the retail offerings that we have today. So those are some of the options you should definitely consider if you're generating a data of that much size.
So these are cloud-based services, Atul? Are these cloud-based services?
These are cloud-based services, and then it will not be like OneCloud or iCloud where you get a login password. You might want to you will have to reach out to these companies. There are standard forms and inquiry forms available on their websites, but then you will become one of their customer, will become one of their enterprise, and they will assign some representative from their organization to work with you to understand your need. They will actually come to your place, understand your data needs, see how much data do you generate, and then they'll prepare a proper business case for you to tell you, give you a view of how much will be your annual billing if you generate the data in terms of whatever you say, right? But they will work with you through entire process to make you understand how it works. But it is definitely much more better than any of the Google Drives or OneDrives. Plus, other aspect is these cloud providers then come with a lot of inherent industry standard safeties. For example, in US, we have HIPAA. In India, I think we have a Data Security Act, which is coming up very soon for healthcare industry. All of these cloud providers will guarantee you the compliance from those perspectives.
So the final answer per se is a cloud, right? I mean, that is what it looks like as of today. Will everything else become obsolete?
Yes.
Yes. Purely from the elasticity that it offers, the options of increasing your size.
I have a question here, Atul. Do large hospitals procure these pockets in cloud space and use it? Do you have any idea?
Sir, Apollo does procure. Apollo does have. I mean, Apollo do have a cloud provider. I believe it's AWS. But in general, large hospitals definitely have tie-ups with large cloud providers. They do definitely work with cloud providers for their data storage. So yes, I think you should definitely inquire in your hospital, talk to your IT department, and see which cloud provider they're working with. Definitely, all the large cloud providers have tie-ups with the hospitals.
Atul, I have a question. Can a normal man who just requires little bit of storage, like 1 terabyte, 2 terabyte, 4 terabyte, can use Amazon AWS directly?
You could, as long as you're willing to pay, as long as you have a business case. Definitely. And like I said, 1 GB cost on Amazon storage would cost you about 23 cents per month. If you don't use it for more than a month, you want to put it on a different storage, which is like infrequently accessed, it will cost you half, about 10 cents a month. And then if you want to not use it for 10 years or 8 years or 5 years, you just want to store it from compliance perspective, from record keeping perspective, it will be as cheap as 3 or 4 cents a month, right? So there's a lot of benefit, and each of this, the organization guarantees the safety of your data. It will give you 11 nines. In our language, we call it as 11 nines in terms of redundancy, which means these organizations will not lose a file, or they will rather lose one file in 10,000 years, right? That's their safety record so far, right?
But is it easy to store from a mobile, like how Dropbox or OneDrive or Google Drive, everything has an app? Does the AWS also has an app where you can directly upload?
No, it wouldn't. It does have a console. It does have a console. But then it's not as straightforward as what you have for iCloud, or it's not as user friendly as what it's for OneDrive or Google Drive.
Also, I have heard that Dropbox uses AWS only. It's just the front end of Dropbox.
I wouldn't know about Dropbox. It's possible. Most of these companies globally there are just 3 major cloud providers, right? One is Microsoft Azure, one is Google, and third is AWS. I would say 90% of the cloud runs on these 3 companies. We'll have a lot of fronts to this, but in the backend, it will be on one of these clouds.
Yeah, because
most of it is on Amazon. Yeah, most of it.
Sorry, Rohit, you were saying something. Please go ahead.
I was just trying to say Apple uses Azure, which is Microsoft. Internally in Microsoft, we used to call it Fuji, basically not Apple. There was a code name for it, but Apple also used Microsoft Cloud. So other companies use the global major providers like AWS, Microsoft Azure, and Google, as Atul had said.
But in my experience,
so
I'll just tell you,
Kshitij sir now knows that the data is getting stored in Microsoft and not Apple.
And Amazon. Amazon is big. Amazon is bigger than Microsoft. So the iCloud servers are mostly Amazon and Microsoft. But I think 90% of the internet is on Amazon. I think the way it is looking like. No. At least gives the impression that everything is on Amazon.
I have a little bit of a tangential question, but I'm pretty sure that somebody will be able to answer it. The data which we collect, which is essentially about a patient, referred to us in a particular hospital, by the hospital, we operate on the patient. Now, the ownership of this data, which kind of we collect, whom does it lie with? Does it lie with the patient? Does it lie with you? Does it lie with the hospital where the patient was treated or operated? It's a little tangential, but again, something which is important. Means what we are doing, is it right?
So that was a question which I also wanted to ask to all the doctors over here. And then, so I work for a lot of healthcare companies as part of my role, and then most of them are US based. And we are very particular about following some of the standards in US which are around HIPAA. Primarily talks about, who owns the data, with whom can you share, how do you integrate different systems which are going to share data with each other, right? Now a similar compliance requirement was started in 2016 in India, which was called as Health Data Privacy and Security Act. I don't know how far it has come, but it started in 2016 with the hope that it's going to learn a lot of things from HIPAA and then implement similar things in India. So I think question is back to you, sir.
Yeah, I'll tell you. Can I?
Yeah, please.
Yeah, the data belongs to hospital. There is no ambiguity about that. If the patient belongs to hospital, you are just a consultant like anybody else. Data belongs to hospital. Now the tricky question is, if you leave the hospital, are you permitted to use that data or not? That legally a doctor should negotiate with the hospital and they seek a permission. But if it goes to court, the data belongs to hospital. Full stop.
Right.
What about if you have
Any
your
question
own
from your
private
end?
clinic? What about the private clinic data?
In private clinic, the data belongs to the owner of the clinic.
Okay.
Who owns the place? He owns the data. As simple as
This
that.
is the HIPAA ruling, or you're talking about the Indian ruling?
No. As it so happens, only day before yesterday, I was reading about this, whatever we are discussing just now about HIPAA and other things. That's why I'm so fresh in my mind to tell you this very authentically. Besides, what we do not normally consider is the permission to take photos. Every time we must take permission from the patient before we start preparing to take a photo. And it's not only just saying that I want to take your photo, you got to tell him where you are going to use it, how many other people are going to use it, does it have access to non-medical purposes, how are you going to save that data safely, and for how many years. All of you are saying 30 years data. It's your responsibility to save that data securely as long as it is with you. If you discard your old computer, make sure that is completely wiped out of patient data. If it falls in different rights and the patient is aware of HIPAA, then you are in trouble. So it is just not saying I want to take your photo and take that photo. There is a lot of responsibility of which unfortunately or fortunately we are not aware. But as the other speaker said, it is coming to us. Data protection acts are going to become stricter and stricter, and patients are getting smarter. So we should expect some kind of legal hassle about this data. So it should not be taken very casually, but very seriously. We should take written consents about all these patient pictures. This is not applicable to X-rays, pathology slides, CT scans, MRIs, all of the material which cannot be directly identified. Of course, you have to hide the identity on the paper, but otherwise there is only verbal consent is adequate to show the X-rays to people. But if the patient photo, then you have to ask for this, ask for permission in writing.
There is one more question which I have, and this is again regarding, say, a video or a photograph, which is, say, a high definition. Is there a way by which it can be compressed without losing the quality? Is there any way, I mean, as per technology, wherein you can, say, convert a 1.5 GB video into, say, a smaller file while maintaining the quality of the same? Is that a possibility?
It's actually not possible. The only way to compress is to compromise on quality. If you really want to compress it, you'll have to, for example, a full HD, you'll have to convert into SD. A QHD, you'll have to convert it into full HD. So that is the only way, because these standards are already, optimized. They're highly optimized and already do some sort of a compression, but you can't compress it without losing any detail.
So Rohit, correct me if I'm wrong, these WinZip and WinRAR, which we use to compress the files, so sort of they don't work, or they are not technically feasible?
They won't work on video in JPEG, for example, is already a compression technique, right? So the way text is stored, for example, or different files are stored, it's easier to compress them, but in case of images or videos, you cannot really compress the bit rate because that you'll lose quality. The compression algorithms don't work there.
Can I answer that question, Swapnil's question?
Yeah, sure, please.
So, I mean, I absolutely agree that you cannot compress without losing the quality. But the thing you want to ask yourself is how much quality you want. Most of the time when we are recording like iPhones these days can record in 4K. And you might not want that video in 4K. Because right now, even if you go HD and Super HD, it's pretty good. It's not bad at all. 4K is still quite in the future, but I don't think you'll sacrifice a lot by converting a 4K into an HD. It still looks quite clear. If the mode of consumption of that video is on your computer screen, if you are going to project it on a big screen, then you want it at a higher resolution. But if it is going to be shown on a computer screen or a standard TV kind of a thing, then an HD works extremely well. It's not a problem. So what I generally do for my videos that are recorded in very high definition, I convert them, at least the ones that I'm sure that they are not for display. There are going to be some absolutely rare situations where it's a rare surgery or whatever. Those you might have to keep the raw data, but the usual run of the mill stuff you might want to, or the data that you use for teaching can definitely go down to HD. It doesn't spoil the video that much for a teaching perspective. So you pick and choose your files.
But tell me, like, if you have a standard, is it not enough for you require a 4K or a HD?
HD is good enough, sir. HD is
presenting on a bigger screen. Isn't a standard good enough?
Standard definition is too low, sir.
And suppose
HD is low.
Okay. So when we insert a video to a PowerPoint, does the quality change automatically or it will remain same?
I don't use PowerPoint, so I don't know.
So can I answer that?
Does that happen in a Keynote then?
Keynote, you'll have to specifically say to downgrade it. If you say to downgrade it, it will downgrade it.
Agnivesh.
So,
same as in PowerPoint.
In PowerPoint, it automatically sort of adjusts it to your screen resolution. So it gives you an option that do you want your screen resolution or lower as well, but it sort of downgrades it. If you want to play it in full sort of resolution, you'll have to give a link to that file so that it doesn't burden your presentation also. That is one. And one point also which I wanted to make after Kshitij sir said is that there is something called as a viewing distance when you are seeing a HD and a quad HD screen and 8K or something. So let me give you an example. If you have a 55-inch TV and you sit away from 6 to 8 feet, your eye cannot differentiate between a SD and a HD and a quad HD. So if your viewing distance from your TV is 10 feet and you are buying a 4K TV, please don't buy it unless you're buying it more than 55 inches, because your eyes will not be able to differentiate those many pixels from 4K to a HD thing. So I think while viewing also, we need to keep all of these things in mind. And as Kshitij sir said, most of these, the good HD is quite well enough. You don't want to sort of do it. we think more from a future proofing perspective that probably in times it will become more common and it will be of some use. So we try to protect that data in that form.
One more question, Agrivesh. I don't know if we have time, but just a question. Now, is it better for an individual and a small place or small hospital or a clinic to have a PACS which is integrated with X-ray, MRI kind of a thing, where you can upload stuff where everything remains in one place, or should they be, two separate ways of storing these things?
Sir, PACS is a good alternative. I'll tell you two reasons for that. One is that the data which is stored in PACS is in DICOM format, which we usually need for a lot of calculations, and a lot of medical software uses that thing. And you can always export that DICOM to anything what you want. You can export it to a sort of a AVI or a movie file, wherein the CT scan or the MRI images scroll by itself. You can upload them, export them to a picture file where you want a particular picture of a particular series which you want to use. So PACS is actually a very good system to have, and it gives you a lot of flexibility to sort of do a lot of calculations, angle calculations, length measurements, which we need. Alternately, if you want, you can export all of that data into a DICOM file and store the DICOM file instead of the pictures. So you have the flexibility of accessing them the way they want. But like if you have a picture which is for say 300 KB or 600, 800 KB, the same DICOM file will be like 1.5 MB or something like that. So you are sort of increasing your data by 3 to 5 times by doing that.
But the PACS is basically a cloud-based thing, right? Most of the time.
Yes.
Which is run by a third party.
Yes.
So
you can run it yourself also on NAS.
Yes.
On NAS you can run a PACS server.
Right. Even if you have a small clinic setup or something, you can use your NAS as your storage device. So your secretary's computer, all of these, your billing information can all go into that cloud rather than going to a third cloud. And the NAS can back up to something else, which backs up your data. But that NAS drive can be your hub of everything what you sort of are doing in a small setup.
I think what you cannot do is use the PACS as a on your computer, because let's say if you are, for example, you are using the PACS system on your personal laptop or your computer, you will very quickly run out of space.
Okay.
Because it's going to occupy tremendous amount of space for patients. So first of all, a lot of the PACS will not work very well with the third party cloud. Like, you are using Dropbox as a place to store and then using your PACS client to download it from Dropbox. So that is not very seamless, and it can give a lot of errors. And if your PACS data is corrupted, you will lose everything. What I personally do is that I don't rely on PACS to store the DICOM images. I create folders of the DICOM files according to the patient's date that it is done and the patient's name, and I link that folder into the PACS client. So the PACS client is not organizing the DICOM data. The PACS client is only linking the data, and that data is stored on the NAS. That's how I have done it. But I know Dr. Mangal Parihar does it using a server which is called Orthanc. It's a free server on NAS. So you can do that also.
We usually share a pen drive to transfer small files, and usually we delete our personal files which maybe have some confidential information and transfer what is required to be given to someone else. How safe is it to share a pen drive, or for that matter used hard disk? If we delete all the files and give it to somebody who's known to us, so how safe is it to share that? Is it possible that the other person can retrieve what was deleted from this pen drive or a hard disk?
Sir, when you delete something from the pen drive, you are just deleting the link you have you are not deleting the data. So the data is still there. It will only go when something overwrites that thing. So there are a lot of softwares which are available, which they can scan and see your recent deleted files, and they can even be retreated or retrieved from that thing. Means I'm sure Atul can correct me. Atul, do you have a take on that?
I think you're right. There are multiple softwares available to recover the data which is deleted. Like Dr. Agnivesh said, it is just the address to the data which gets deleted, but data is still there. So using this specialized softwares, we could still traverse through the file system and get that data which you thought you have deleted. I think the better option is if you wipe it out completely. I think that helps. But then if you're just deleting it and then putting your new data, it is still available for somebody to misuse it using some specialized softwares.
What do you mean by wipe it? Reformat?
You just reformat it completely.
And even formatting sometimes only clears the fat table, or the fat table like an index of a book, but the book is already has the content. You're just wiping the index. So there are tools that can wipe the device entirely using DOD, for example, Department of Defense algorithms, or there are like 7-pass algorithms which go through the entire drive and then rewrite all the bits to 0 7 times over and over again, because these are magnetic disks. And even if you, for example, overwrite a data, it's still possible to get the original data that was overwritten, because that's the nature of magnetic drives. There's still enough hints for advanced specialized software to kind of extract the data that was overwritten.
Right. I think it's 9:38. Sangeet sir, we should wind up. Swapnil sir. Right. So thank you very much, Sangeet sir and Swapnil sir, for guiding us through this talk. Thank you, Ram sir, for introducing us for what you have been doing for last 20 years, because one way or other, we still follow that. We still have our backups into the hard drives of our NAS drives. So the old things and the time-tested things never go. Kshitij sir, with his beautiful insight, has sort of enlightened us with iCloud and sort of thrown a new sort of option open, and probably Apple is going to look forward to him, to have him on board to sort of get more people towards the iCloud. Thank you, Rohit. You have been very, very insightful, very helpful. Thank you for joining despite a Sunday and despite an evening in your city. So we are very grateful to you. Thank you, Atul, for joining. And thank you for helping us and enlightening us. Thank you, Sudhanshu. Sudhanshu was having a bit of internet connection issue, but he could make up and give us his insights. Thank you, Sudhanshu, very, very much for giving us your tips. And I hope this session will sort of help each one of us to sort of advance and help in our needs. And thank you, Neeraj sir, for your insights. He is the torchbearer of orthopedic innovation and IT technology. So thank you for your inputs as well. So with this, if I have permission of the president, sir, and the secretary, sir, I can call this meeting to close.
You can stop recording.
Sure.